anti-Greek.
I'm not. No, man.
I just want to be clear.
Bob shut me down
How many times has Shamsi pulled you to one side saying, I've come here to talk with Bob? Twice?
I'm free from this.
Twice? Don't sound like the Dawa team. Take it. Be honest.
He's going to come for you today.
How many times?
He's coming for you today, Bob.
Who's betting he won't actually want to have a conversation?
Bob.
Who's betting he doesn't actually want to have a conversation?
Quick question, Bob.
Yeah, go on.
Do you condemn or condone? Do you condemn or condone 1 Samuel 15:3, Joshua 6:21, where it says to go and utterly destroy it? Do you condemn or condone the killings of sheep and donkeys by your God?
No.
Do you condemn or condone it?
I condone it.
You condone it.
Yes.
So you support the killing of donkeys. What
No.
did the donkeys do to your God?
No. Let me answer that question. It's a fair question. It's the kind of typical question that members of the Dawa team ask. And we have to be clear as to why they ask the question. The reason why Muslims ask the question, about this passage in the Old Testament is because they are embarrassed by their prophet Muhammad, who raped and murdered in the 7th century and who they acclaim as the best representative. And that is why they go to this passage.
What has that got to do with
Now, to address the passage was in history. It is what God commanded in the past. It is not something that any Christian would feel obliged to do today. Why? Because Christians interpret the Bible through a prism of covenants. There was a covenant with Adam. There was a covenant with Noah. There was a covenant with Abraham. There was a covenant with Moses. And there is a new covenant with Jesus Christ. Each of those covenants is different from the one before it. And therefore, what applies in an old covenant does not necessarily carry into the new covenant. So when they ask us this question about these Old Testament passages where God commands Israel to utterly destroy, Christians read those passages as something to do with the past, not a command for the present.
But wasn't it the same God?
By contrast,
wasn't it the
same God? Yes, same God.
Thank you very much.
By contrast, Muslims believe that Muhammad is the best example today. So when he commanded his followers to rape, he was doing that as the best example. When he commanded his followers to take slaves, he was doing that as the best example. When he commanded a mother to be ripped in two by camels, he did that as the best example. When he commanded his followers to have sex with their slaves, he did that as the best example. Christians have a difference in our faith to Islam. The Old Testament does not apply in its fullness today. There is a new covenant, and Muslims would do better to criticize our faith based upon what it actually teaches.
Bob the liar.
Why am I lying?
Why are you talking like that for, when clearly the God of the Old Testament
What am I lying
and the God
about?
of the New Testament is the same?
Does the God of the Old Testament say there'll be a new covenant?
He said utterly destroy, and you're talking about male and female slaves, yeah? Bondmaids, yeah?
I asked
what about
you a question.
Leviticus 25:44?
Notice he doesn't want to answer the question.
What about the bondmaids?
Notice he doesn't want to answer the question.
25:44.
I'll ask you again.
What about the bondmaids?
You're saying that I lied.
Yes.
Right. Am I lying about the idea that there is a new and an old covenant?
No, you're lying about Islam. Bob.
Are you saying that Christ
Islam,
doesn't establish a new covenant?
Bob, you're lying about Islam.
So I'm not lying about my own faith then?
Christ said that he's got to fulfill...
So I'm not lying about my own faith then?
Bob.
Answer the question.
Bob.
Am I lying?
Yes, you
Answer
are.
the question.
You are lying.
Listen to the question.
You're lying on both of
He
them.
doesn't even know. Right.
Bob, you're lying on both.
So,
you know
let
why?
me just prove him wrong.
You know why?
Let me just prove him wrong.
Because God
He has just said that the Christian faith does not teach a new covenant.
Now you're
That is
changing.
what he said.
You're changing it though.
That
They
is
never-
what he
never
said.
came to change.
Listen
But
to
you're
this.
changing.
So now let us compare the claim of the Taoist in his ignorance about the Christian faith when he said that I was lying about the
one
Christian
God shall be
faith
changed.
in teaching
No
a
one
new
God shall
covenant
be changed.
and compare it to the words of Jesus himself. Because the Muslims at the corner work to a script. They never actually pick up a Bible.
So do you,
they
Bob.
never actually
So do you,
study.
Bob.
They never actually learn. Now,
Same to you, Bob.
this is what Jesus said. Are you listening?
Yes.
This
No,
cup
yes.
which is poured out for you is the new covenant
I can't hear you, Bob.
in my
Louder.
blood.
Louder.
Jesus has just said he has established a new covenant that was promised in the Old Testament. Now, sir, are you willing to retract what you said
It's
when
the
you
new
said that I lied about Jesus establishing a new covenant?
Is the new covenant same as the Ten Commandments? Is the new covenant a part of the Ten Commandments? Or is it changed from the Ten Commandments?
The Ten Commandments carry over into the new.
So when he says utterly destroy the Amalekites and the donkeys, yeah, it's part of Jesus' teaching as well, isn't it, Bob?
No!
Yes, it is.
Oh, so suddenly a man who didn't even know that Jesus Christ established a new covenant suddenly thinks himself an expert of the Old Testament.
You're not an expert either, Bob.
So, let us be clear. Let us be clear. God says in the Old Testament, this is in Jeremiah, something that my brother here has not bothered to read. This is what God says in the Old Testament. Behold, days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not like the old covenant. Did you hear that bit? No, you didn't, because you're not listening. I'll read it to you again. Not
Where's
like
Where's
the old
I need
covenant
Greek here as well.
which I made with their fathers in the day I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. Who brought them out of the land of Egypt? Moses. Who was the Ten Commandments given to? Moses. So Jeremiah the prophet is saying that Yahweh has said that he will establish a new covenant that is not like the covenant of Moses. So when he appeals to the laws of Moses and tries to say that we Christians need to live by them in the new covenant that I've already demonstrated Jesus established at the night of the Last Supper, he is doing it in ignorance of biblical teaching. Why? Because the Dawa team, the Muslims that do evangelism here in the park, are ignorant of the Christian faith. They only have a script to work from that they hear from their teachers in the mosque. And the moment you show them anything that disproves their script, they have nothing to say. So now let me ask you this question. In Jeremiah, God says through the prophet, I will establish a new covenant, not like the covenant that I made with your fathers when I brought them out of Egypt. Who is God referring to? What covenant is God referring to when he says a new covenant, not like the old covenant? Which is the old covenant? Silence!
I don't know, Bob.
Exactly as I said. The moment you take them to a text that disproves their script,
No, you haven't
they have
disproven
nothing to say.
Bob, you haven't disproven nothing.
So I'll ask you again. It says in the text, do a Bible study with me. Behold, days are coming, declares the Lord. So who's speaking? Yahweh. When I will make a new covenant. What did he say? New covenant. What does new mean? New means something new, not something old. Listen carefully. which I made with their fathers in the day. Sorry, it says, not like the covenant which I made with their fathers in the day I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. I'll ask you again. The text is clear. There is a new covenant and an old covenant. What is being referred to when it says old covenant?
I don't know, Bob.
He doesn't know. Why doesn't he know? Because the script that he has learnt in his mosque is not sufficient to deal with the scriptures. That is why he doesn't know.
Scriptures.
Exactly. So that's the new covenant. You say the new covenant replaces the old covenant.
Correct.
Yep. So that means God's
supposedly?
old law is being replaced by a new law.
No.
Yes.
A new covenant is replacing an old covenant. Let me explain. Let me explain, because you've already admitted you don't know. Now, if you're here just to argue, you can argue. But if you want to learn, listen, I'll explain the new covenant. The old covenant was made with Israel, a covenant between Yahweh and a particular set of tribes, the Jewish tribes. That covenant was to prove to the surrounding nations that God was real and that he was the only true God. Now, in the new covenant, those that accept Jesus Christ are grafted onto Israel. And this new covenant is designated as a covenant of love, not of law. Christians are commanded to love and to be a people of hope. The old covenant with Israel was defined by three elements of law: moral law, cultural law, and religious law. Only one aspect of that covenant was carried over into the new, the Ten Commandments, which, as he misquoted, do not say, thou shalt not kill. No, it says, thou shalt not murder. And there is a world of difference between murdering and killing.
All right.
A world of difference.
Do it, it's just killing.
Yeah.
When the British forces, when the British forces took up arms against the Nazis, were they murdering or killing? When the IRA took up weapons against the against the British forces, were they murdering or killing?
Against the IRA.
One of those examples is an example of murder, the IRA. One of those examples is an example of killing. Killing can be justified if the situation is extreme enough. The Old Testament passage that you quoted, where God commanded that a nation be destroyed, was justified because of the threat that that nation faced towards Israel.
One last question.
One last question.
One last question, Bob. Right. How many apocryphal accounts are there in the Bible?
Let me just drink my book. Let me just drink a drip of water. I'll take it by the fact that he has changed the topic entirely to another part of his script that he has been dealt with on the earlier part of his script. So, in answer to the question, how many apocryphal books are there in the Bible? Christians do not agree upon how many books there should be in the Bible. We are open about this disagreement. We don't try to hide it. Protestants, Catholics and Orthodox all have different collections of books in their Bible.
So why did
However, I'm answering your question.
When we had democracy,
However,
law, we told
the Christian faith is not built on the Bible. The Bible is built out of the Christian faith.
common sense would be
The fact of the resurrection and Christ's life is the basis of the Christian faith, and it was from that historical event that the New Testament emerged. However, I cannot take a lecture from a Muslim about different books because Muslims disagree about their hadiths. Shia and Sunni Muslims use different hadiths to interpret their Qur'an.
But one Qur'an.
And their
one Qur'an.
and their
we all have
Islam-
one Qur'an.
No, they don't.
Look,
That is a
Shias,
lie.
Muslims all have
That
one
is a
Qur'an.
lie.
Shias and Muslims
That is a lie.
believe Allah is one.
That is a
and
lie.
Muhammad is the last prophet.
Which Qur'an?
That's what they believe.
The Duri
Bob,
Qur'an,
wait, Bob.
the Hafs
Wait,
Qur'an,
Bob,
the
wait.
Wash Qur'an.
I'm gonna get to
Which
it.
Qur'an is the one
Are you
Qur'an
gonna
you
let me
have?
finish? Are you gonna let me
No,
finish? Can I
no,
finish?
no, I haven't finished.
Okay, no problem.
I haven't
No problem,
finished.
Bob.
So, the Muslims have disagreement about their hadiths. They fight one another about those hadiths. Now he says that all Muslims have one Quran. That is ignorant. There are textual variants between the Hafs and the Wash Quran. There are textual variants between the Duri and the Hafs Quran. There are even textual variants between the most ancient texts of the Quran, the Sinai manuscripts,
why you have the variations.
the Paris Metropolitan in Paris,
Hadouken.
yeah, the Mahale manuscript that you can find in the British Library. These manuscripts
When they gonna take
differ
it back to the library?
from one another. The fact is, they don't have one Quran. They never have had one Quran, and it is a myth amongst Muslims that all their Qurans are the same. And if you don't believe me, I'll give you two books that you can go to buy today in Waterstones to check for yourself.
Big shot.
Book number 1, Textual Variants of Quranic Manuscripts by David Brubacher. He gives 20. I'll answer that question, who? David Brubacher is the leading scholar on ancient Quranic manuscripts. He has had access
Is he the world
to
leader?
all nine of the oldest Quranic manuscripts, and he has found textual variants of those earliest manuscripts to the 1924 edition of the 1924 edition of the Quran today. Now, I'll be honest, the second book, the author has escaped my memory, so I'll have to look it up.
Can I say something now, Bob?
Yeah, go for
Without
it.
you interrupting, yeah?
You mean like you interrupted me, but go on.
Yeah, okay. Now, he wants to talk about textual variants, 1924. If you go to 1923, you'll see it's the same, so he's talking rubbish. Yeah? So let's see the textual variants, yeah? Is that the same as the Bible? Let's go into it.
I thought we were talking about how many Qurans there are.
He's changed it.
Yeah, no, we're talking about Qurans as well, yeah? I've just answered it.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
You've only just started speaking.
The Quran
How could
is...
you have answered it when you've only just started talking?
Sorry, the Quran is just one. You might have different ways of pronouncing it, but every Muslim understands it the same. It's not the same as the Bible, and I'll give you a clear example on the Bible, right? In the Bible, John 1:18, it has the word the only begotten Son, right? And you got 13 Bibles that use the word the only begotten Son. The Variant Literal Bible, New International Standard Bible, Aramaic Bible, New American Standard, Jubilee, King James 2000, American King James, and the list goes on to 13 Bibles that use the word begotten. There are 11 Bibles that don't use the word begotten, yeah? Is that the same as that? No, it's not. In the Quran, you'll have a little, difference on the way in pronunciation. But the meaning is the same for the Muslims. Every Muslim understands it the same. It's not the same as the Bible when in the New International Version or the Living Translation, English Standard Version, Variant Studies, Holmes, International BT Bible, they don't have the word begotten. Yeah, 13 Bibles that have the word begotten, 11 Bibles don't. They have 450 Bibles that vary, and they're all in English, and they're all different translations. They're versions, translation versions. We have one Arabic, but many English translations. They have many Bibles in versions. That's the difference, Bob. Go right ahead.
Okay, so you all heard what he said. There's some translations that have the word begotten, and there are other translations that do not have the word begotten. Now, he is confusing a number of different things. Different words with different translations of the same word. Now, I would ask you, ladies and gentlemen, when you're translating from one language to another, there are different methods of translation.
It's in English, Bob.
Stop interrupting.
I apologize.
Thank you. So, there are different methods of translation. You have the methodology of dynamic equivalence, which is you translate thought for thought. You have the translation methodology of literal word equivalence. That is where you translate word for word. The brother is simply confusing the two methodologies. He is simply confusing the fact that some translations go for thought and some go for word. Now, let us go back to his Qur'ans. I would ask you, ladies and gentlemen, do a thought experiment with me. I'd ask you, is a plural the same as a singular? If I say the word tree, is it the same as the word trees? No, it is not. A plural is different word from a singular. These are the kinds of examples we find in the textual variants of the Qur'an. Some versions of the Qur'an will use singulars. Other versions of the Qur'an, referring to the same verse, will take those singulars and make them into plurals. Let me ask you this question. This is an example commonly known for the regulars in the park. Many of you won't know it, but take my word for it, it is regularly debated here. In the Warsh Qur'an, talking of a particular verse, it says that Allah is the owner of all things. In the Hafs Qur'an, it says Allah is the king of all things. Are the words king and owner the same? No. Yes, they can have some overlap in terms of their implication, but it is not the case that every king is an owner, and it is not the case that every owner is a king. You are all owners of something here, but you are not all kings. The Queen is an owner, but she is also a monarch. So one Qur'an, supposedly, has two different words. One says owner, one says king, one says singular, one says plural. That is the very definition of a textual variant, and you will not find a single academic who understands textual variants that would argue anything different. And if you have different texts, you have different Qur'ans.
You finished, Bob?
Yes.
All right, now, Bob is talking about Qur'an that is translated in English. Can you bring it in Arabic and read it in Arabic and show us the difference? Because we've got Arabic speakers here who could tell you the difference. So show us the difference, and we will correct you. Now, he wants to talk about variance. Right, in Luke 7:24, in English, it says, and the messenger of John were departed. If you go to the original Greek, it uses the word, if you go to the Greek Testament manuscript, it uses the word angelos. What does angelos mean, my Greek friend?
Angelos.
Angelos.
Means angel.
Angels, thank you very much. Now, why does the Luke, in your Bible, use the word messenger? Are angels
Angel
and
means
messengers,
messenger.
are angels
Angel
and
means
messengers the
messenger.
same? Are angels and messengers, are they the same?
Yes.
Are they the same?
Yes, they're
Are
the same.
angels
Yes.
and messengers,
Yes.
are they the same?
Yes.
No.
He's a Hebrew speaker.
An angel is a malach in Hebrew, and a messenger is a malach as well.
Yeah, an angel means messenger.
That's exactly what it
So
means.
you're telling me
You didn't know what you were
this
talking about.
messenger,
Because
this
it's not on
angel
the script,
came
you see.
with the message.
Not on the script.
Yeah, it came with a message. Yeah. John were to depart. That was the message. Yeah.
In fact, it calls John
That's
an
the
angel.
difference between theirs and ours. Ours is he'll go into semantic ways, English translation, and one translator will translate it this way, another translator will translate it
Got
this
the
way.
Arabic here.
Because the miracle of
Show him he's
Arabic
wrong.
is that one Arabic word can have many different meanings.
It's not true.
up to the scholars
Got the
how
Arabic
they
right here.
translate it. Now him,
Good.
he wants to go to English, and that's it. But when you go to their Bibles, like I said, you have 450 Bibles, and they all vary. Some have the word begotten, some don't have the word begotten.
Translation.
Yeah, and then what? No answers for it. He wants to go to semantics. Go right ahead, Bob.
Right. So he used the example of angelos in the Greek. The Greek is using a word equivalence. It is a translation of a Hebrew. And they use the word that means the same. Angel in Hebrew means messenger. The translation into Greek is conveying the same meaning. Now, the whole argument made by my unlearned friend here is that because there are textual variants in the Bible can't be trusted, and because the Bible can't be trusted, our faith doesn't work.
Thank you, Bob.
That's his argument.
That's it, Bob. Thank you.
That is his argument. However, it is flawed from beginning to end.
So you say,
Why? Why is it flawed? Because the Apostle Paul wrote that if Christ was not risen from the dead, our faith would be in vain. In other words, as a Christian, my faith is based upon the historical reality of Jesus rising from the dead, not upon whether there are textual variants in the Bible. That is the correct understanding of the Christian faith. He is taking an Islamic understanding of Islam and superimposing that understanding onto Christianity as if it was a perfect fit. In other words, he's getting a circle peg and driving it into a square hole. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. Now, let us go to his Qur'an. Let us go to his Qur'an. So, you said you're an Arabic speaker. Okay. What does my pronunciation may be off because I am not an Arabic.
I am an Arabic.
Listen, what does the word kitalu mean? Kitalu.
Sorry? What?
Come here.
What?
What does that word mean?
Let me see. Don't say it.
Kitalu, that's the transliteration
I know.
of the
You
Arabic.
don't.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Sorry, mate. Can I have a look?
why you
Do you know what it means?
Yeah, I know.
What does it mean?
No, but I don't know. Can I have a look?
Right, so the Arabic speaker, when confronted with the transliteration of the Arabic suddenly doesn't know what it means. No, let's be clear. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. We've already checked these because the translations are correct.
That's all I can say.
They are correct. Now, in the Hafs version of the Quran, in a particular passage, it uses the word kitulu, kutilu, kutilu, kutilu. Killed. Did you hear that? Killed. And that is what the Christian translator translated the word as. So thank you for verifying.
Give us the whole
Thank you. Notice the heckling.
Give us the whole
Notice
sentence.
the heckling.
Give me one word. Give me the whole sentence.
Were they heckling when the Muslim was speaking?
Hey, give me the whole
No.
sentence.
Do you want to hear me speak or the hecklers?
No, give me the whole sentence.
I'll wait for the hecklers to stop.
The lady want to hear it too.
Quran says never kill anybody.
Sister, I'm talking with him. Kindly be patient. Now, the sister, and you all saw it, and you caught it on camera. She confirmed that our Christian translators had translated the word correctly, and she's a Muslim, and she did that without any prompting from me. Now, the Hafs version of the Quran uses the word kutilu. The Wash version of the Quran, let's see if your Arabic's still any good. Qatalu. What does that mean?
Qatalu means those who
Fight. Thank you. Once again, she has confirmed the translation by the Christians. Brother, come here.
I haven't
Brother,
confirmed anything.
at the very top of your voice, as if you're shouting to those two gentlemen over there, just confirm how our Christian translators translated the word kutulu and the word katalu. Loudly so everyone can hear. Kutulu were there and katalu they fought. Shout it so everyone can hear you.
Quitalu were,
Louder.
Quitalu were killed.
Thank you. And Katalu.
Catalu, they fought.
So, he has just read it independently of me. She has confirmed it independently of me. No, let me ask. Let me ask. Notice the hecklers. They're all sparked. They're all triggered. They're all triggered. Why are they triggered? Why are they triggered? Why are they triggered?
You know, you Christians.
Triggered, 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 triggered. Why are they triggered? I'm not going to stop until I get to finish my point.
Bring it in context.
Right, triggered,
You need to be cooked.
triggered. So, the Hafs Quran reads the words like this. Because the brother asked for the context.
Wait here, be patient.
And the ones who have been killed in the way of Allah, then He will never send their deeds into error.
What's 23 compared to 400?
The Wash Quran
450
translates
defend that.
the same passage
Same with your Bible.
this way. He wasn't listening.
The Bible as brothers
And those who fought in the way of Allah, then He will never send their deeds into error. The same verse in two different Qurans, using two different words. Different Qurans. Case closed. Your reply.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob. Right, the word you just quoted, the word you just got translated for was just a word. Bob, she only translated one or two words, not the whole sentence, so we don't know what's going on with the whole sentence. And the other thing, Bob, before I go, this is just too much here. I don't know how you do it. I rate you for doing me from your Bible. Yeah.
And then we'll talk about it.
Acts 1:3. If you could just read Acts 1:3, and I think that'll be it.
Are you going to give commentary, or are you going to let me give commentary?
You can give commentary if you want, but I just want you to read it loud and clear.
Yep.
So everybody can hear. With a sound mind and intellect, pick it up. Please pick it up. Listen to it.
I know, yeah. Bible is all.
Acts 1:3.
Yes, please.
They don't pray
Sister, you've been such a great help to me. Can I buy you a tea after this? I really want to buy you a tea. Without you, I couldn't have proved that point so beautifully. Without you, I could not have proved that point so
You
beautifully.
didn't prove nothing.
You didn't have any.
You weren't even paying
For the
attention.
Christians.
You weren't even paying
Nothing was
attention.
only for the Christians.
So,
Fine.
notice. Have you finished your point?
I finished. I just want him to read the
Okay.
Acts 1:3 and that's it.
Notice, we're changing the subject to another part of the script. Bear that in mind. Acts 1:3. Listen. And then you said I'll give commentary, right?
You can give commentary if you want.
Okay.
But listen carefully.
Okay, my friend, you're
Everyone
holding
listen
your holy
carefully.
book,
To
which
the...
is full of mistakes.
When you're ready.
Which is full of mistakes. Your Bible is
ready.
full
Okay.
of mistakes.
And then I'm giving
Very
commentary.
bad mistakes.
Okay.
Yes.
To these he also presented himself alive after his suffering, by many convincing proofs, appearing to them over a period of 40 days, and speaking of the things concerning the kingdom of God.
Thank you, Bob. Amen. Thank you very much.
Now let me give the commentary.
Catch you later, Mr. Brown.
You take care.
That was it.
When are you going to become a Christian?
That was it.
When are you going to become a Christian?
You don't even know it. It's done.
So,
It's alive.
let me give this commentary. Let me give this commentary. And then if you, after I've given this commentary, then we'll talk. And then I want to buy you a tea, because you've been great. So, honestly, without this sister, I wouldn't have been able to prove that point so brilliantly.
No, but I have just
She
translated
confirmed.
2 words.
Thank you.
Listen.
She confirmed the textual variant in the Arabic without knowing how our Christian translators had translated it, and they matched perfectly.
Why don't you give me
They
a
matched
conversion?
perfectly. Now, so coming back to this passage, Christ appeared for 40 days, convincing his apostles that he had risen from the dead. Because it is that fact, ladies and gentlemen, that my faith stands or falls, not textual variants. And the reason for that is, if you read the New Testament carefully, it is clearly talking about an event retrospectively. It is talking about an event after the fact. In other words, the fact precedes the literature, not the literature precedes the belief. They are two different directions of travel. So textual variants, whilst they are complicated, whilst they are difficult, whilst they are something that we as Christians should take seriously, handle with care, and deal with intelligently, they do not damage the faith we hold. By contrast, the Qur'an is said to be literally the words of Allah, literally the message of Allah, and the Qur'an is supposedly perfectly preserved, dot for dot, letter for letter, word for word. And as this wonderful sister has just helped me demonstrate, that is a lie, because there are different Qur'ans having different words that impact the local meaning of the passages to which they are variants of.
In that passage, it says those who were killed in the way of Allah
and those who fought. Is everyone who fought? Okay, go on. I'll let you speak.
In Islam, there are things called Ihda al-Husnayn. So, in Islam, when Muslims fight, either they are victorious or they are martyrs. So in the end, whether they fought and were victorious or whether they were killed in the way of Allah, then their deeds will not go to error.
Let me ask you this question. If you said to a police officer, I've just seen two people fighting,
Yes.
Is that the same as saying I've just seen 2 people killed?
No.
No. So they are different words then, are they not?
But they impact the same.
No, they don't. Because you've just said they don't. If you go to that police officer
Yes.
and say, I've just seen 2 people fighting,
Yes.
is that the same as saying 2 people killed?
No.
No. So they do impact the meaning, do they not?
Yes, but you have to bring it in context.
Right.
Because
let's look at it in context. Let's look at it in context.
Okay.
You talked about jihad.
Yes.
Right. Is everyone who fights in the court of Allah but does not die a martyr?
No.
Do martyrs receive a special reward?
Yes.
Does someone who dies of a natural death without fighting in the way of Allah receive the same reward as a martyr?
Yeah, they can. They can.
Go on.
If they die in a fire, if they die by drowning, yes.
Okay.
And
So let's
by someone else.
okay, fine. If they die of a heart attack,
yeah.
do they receive the reward as a martyr?
No.
Even if they fought in the way of Allah?
Do they
Yeah, they
have
could.
it in your religion?
Even if,
Do
no,
they have it your
in this
religion?
example,
Do they go to
one question at a time, sister. I'm dealing with this bros in misconceptions.
Okay.
Do they, if someone fights in the way of Allah when they're in their 20s,
Yes.
they survive,
Yes.
they live to a ripe old age, have
Yeah.
many grandchildren, and then just die of a stroke,
Yes.
do they receive the martyr's reward of those people that were fighting alongside him and died as martyrs?
They could.
They could, but not necessarily.
Yes. Not
Does a martyr always receive his reward?
if he fought in the way of Allah, yes. He did.
Right, so not only then do we have 2 different words, but it also has implications to what those people get as a reward.
Yes.
Because not everyone who fights in the way of Allah will receive a martyr's reward.
Yes. But
So
they
if
will
someone
always
is,
receive
so if someone is, hold on,
Because
because,
maybe he did other
well, excuse
things
me, sister, please stop being rude.
Oh,
Then wait until I've dealt with
actually,
his
this
argument.
person who's not a martyr, who dies of an actual cause, he can get a higher reward than a martyr because he had longer to live.
Right, so could
Yes.
be,
Yes.
possibly,
Yes.
but also cannot, possibly not, could not.
Yes.
In other words, the difference in word has a different meaning. A
But this-
promise is given
Yes.
to those who are killed
And those
in
who
one Quran,
Yes.
but that same promise is given to those who fought in a different Quran.
Yes.
But your later beliefs, the ones that came after the Qurans were written, say that there's a distinction between those who die in the way of Allah and those who simply fight in the way of Allah. One is given the assurance of a gift and the other is not.
No, they're given the assurance of a gift, but perhaps not the same gift.
So
as
it's
the one-
not the same then, is it?
The subject in that verse is that their deeds will not go to error.
Their deeds will not go to
Yes.
error.
So whether they fought or they were martyred,
But their martyrdom makes a difference, doesn't it?
but both of their deeds will not go to error. That's the subject.
So that means that a martyr has no special reward comparatively to those that fought.
They do, but it's not in this verse.
They do! Exactly my point. So the word killed does have a different meaning with a different implication, doesn't it?
The subject in that's from that you're bringing it out of context. In that verse,
I've just put it back into context.
in that verse, it's
Use
saying,
your context.
in that verse, it's saying that their deeds will not go to error, whether they fought or they were killed.
But those who die in the way of Allah receive a guarantee that those who fight in the way of Allah do not. Is that correct?
Yes.
There you go. So it is important whether you're someone who's killed or someone who's fought.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So when one Quran says killed and another Quran says fought, they're actually talking about 2 different categories of people. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. If they are talking about 2 different categories of people, then we have, by every definition of the word, a textual variant between 2 different Qurans. And if we have a textual variant between 2 different Qurans, you have 2 different Qurans, not one.
The same word in Arabic.
We've already done this, sir. You arrived late. Just so you know, we had an Arabic speaker, and I have witnesses. Put your hand up if you witness the Arabic speaker confirm. Right? We had an Arabic speaker independently confirm the translation that we were given by Christian Arabs. And she did it without seeing the translation. She just heard the word and translated it identically to how the Christians had translated it. So we had 2 different Arabic speakers confirming the exact same translations. Those translations were different. Now we're discussing the implications, and we see that the implications are also different. Are we in dispute that there are two different words?
No.
Are we in dispute that those who die in the way of Allah have a guarantee that those who fought in the way of Allah do not?
No.
Right, so we are in agreement then that we're talking
But
about...
they both have guarantees.
1 second. We're talking about two different categories of people, are we not?
Yes.
So we are talking about two different Qur'ans. Thank you.
No, not two different. There's only one Qur'an, but it's different.
Amazing. It doesn't matter how many times you say there's only one Qur'an. If one Qur'an has different words to another Qur'an, and those words mean different things, talking about different kinds of people, you don't have one Qur'an. You have two Qur'ans.
Which one?
So which Qur'an did Muhammad give? The Wash or the Hafs?
He was given it on 7 verses. He was given the Qur'an on 7 verses. Because he was
So Muhammad gave 7 Qur'ans?
He was not, he didn't give, he was given.
He was given 7 Qur'ans?
No, not 7 Qur'an. The Qur'an on 7 verses.
The Qur'an on 7 verses?
Because
What do you mean 7
he was sent to the Arabs, especially, and to all of the people. Yes. So they spoke different. I wouldn't say languages.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
But if you gave them one of the Qur'ans, they wouldn't understand it fully.
Bro, you are a massively pleasant guy, and it is a real pleasure to speak to you, honestly. Like, in comparison to the regulars here at the park, you have civility, and you're coherent, and you're following logic.
Yes.
But please, follow your own logic to its final conclusion.
Yes.
If you agree with premise A, that we have different words, and if you agree that we have with premise B, that those different words are talking about two different categories of people,
Yes.
and if you agree with premise C, that two different categories of people cannot be the same people,
Yes.
then follow that through to the conclusion. You have two different Qur'ans. They're not massively different. It still teaches Tawheed. It still teaches the 5 pillars of Islam. It still teaches that there's only one God and that Muhammad is his prophet. I'm not trying to say that these textual variants mean that the Qur'ans are massively unreliable in everything that they actually say.
Yes.
I'll even go so far as to say
Yes.
that as a preserved text, the Qur'an is one of the purest preserved texts in the world. I'll give you that.
Okay.
But that is a qualitative, not quantitative definition. In other words, I am saying to you, it is not perfectly preserved. Its perfect preservation is not there. You have two different Qur'ans, slightly different, marginally different, marginally, but not the same, which means that the only dogma that you need to abandon is the dogma that the Qur'an was preserved by Allah. That's the only one you need to get rid of.
Okay, let's go to another verse.
I've already done this, sir. You're too late. I know. I'll come back. Then let me finish my conversation with them. I'll come back to you.
Yes, I do.
You were here when we heard the translation. Yes. Do you agree with me that an Arabic speaker, independently, without seeing the translation,
Yes.
confirmed the very translation we had from Christian Arabs?
Yes.
You all heard that? He said yes. He witnessed it himself. Put your hand up if you also witnessed the same thing. All of these people witnessed it.
Why always talking about negative? Why do you never talk about the covenant that our Prophet Muhammad that he gave to the Christians, or the hadiths that have great punishment to those who harm a Christian or anyone under the protection?
So let me address this.